Hi there, and welcome to Wealth Bites. I want to start today by sharing my love for taking notes and writing weird comments in different places. It's part of who I am. I write on different things, scrap of paper, napkin, sometimes on my hands if I can't find anything to write on, just that the idea doesn't slip my mind. And this is really what inspired me for today's episode. So basically, it's a question I've been asked about 35 times since the budget night. Whether this was in client catch-ups or phone calls, it was actually flooding my inbox, but it's been asked by different tech professionals on different levels. Now, it is usually some version of, Mo, is it still even worth it buying a property anymore? Mo, the new budget killed negative gearing. I'm still on track. Do I have to, cancel the buying of property altogether? And, new budget killed negative gearing. Is the property market about to tank? And that's a big one, which no one really can answer, but we can look at the facts and data. Now, let me start by clarifying. I don't get any benefit whether my clients buy a property or neglect it. It's just part of their portfolio. I help my clients really to identify or to decide whether property fits their strategy or it doesn't fit. We look at the numbers and we dig deep into this. So if you haven't read my book, you can log to www.mywealthchoice.com.au/property letter V letter S shares. So property versus shares, and download your copy where you can learn about different things in the property market. Now, in this book, I talk about different things. So the 7 comparison factors that actually can change outcomes for property in terms of taxes, cash flow, leverage, liquidity, diversification, different costs, and so on and so forth. Now, also, I offer in this book a simple worksheet to help you map your numbers and see the trade-offs clearly between property and shares. Also, how concentrated risk show up in both property and shares, because people think it's only shares. And really, what are the ways that you can use or do to manage it? So also, one of the things I cover off is when time horizon matters most and when it doesn't. So questions to ask really about, whether you can or you should use leverage or tying up equity before you move into your next property purchase. So it's all available for free. If you want to have a look, be my guest. Now, back to the question I started with. Honestly, I get the reaction from big changes. We as human beings hate change. That is a fact. On any scale, we hate it. But I want to push back on the question itself. It's not the right question, to be honest. Because if you are deciding whether to invest based on what happened to tax deductions, you are already standing one level below where this decision should be made. So today, let's go up a level, because the people who actually build wealth through property, they never started with a tax perk in the first place. Think about that very well. Now, before I start digging deeper, welcome back to my Wealth Bites. I am Mo, and this is the only show for tech professionals in Australia trying to turn a big income into real, lasting wealth while saving on tax. Welcome to Wealth Bites. And this is episode number 20. It is for one person in particular I was thinking about. It is the tech professional sitting on the fence right now, post-budget, wondering, should I even bother buying an investment property anymore? Has the government just ruined my plans to build wealth and be financially free and work optional as I wish to? The short version is no. And by the end of this episode, I think you will see why the budget actually made the decision clearer for you and not harder. Let's get into it. What the budget actually did. This is our first point. Let's get the facts straight, because most of the panic out there is running on a misread of information. Remember, news and socials are built to distract you and attract your attention, not to give you what's important to you. They are designed to sell you the news, the panic, the bad news. This is the bit people get wrong. Negative gearing. The part where a rental loss knocks down the tax on your salary. Everybody loved it. That is being switched off now, but only for established homes. Only ones you buy after budget night, which was the 12th of May, 2026. And it only kicks in from July 2027. And even then, the losses don't disappear. They get quarantined and parked for you. You can still use them in the future against future rental income or even future capital gains. And the bit that everyone actually means by negative gearing, reducing your salary tax, that's gone for those properties. Now, here is what the noise is leaving out. 3 things, right? Number 1, if you already own the property or you're already under contract, not settlement, before the announcement, you are grandfathered, untouched until you sell the property. Even your own home, when you turn it to the investment property, still untouched and you can start negatively gear it. Now, the other thing is brand new builds are deliberately exempt. That's what the government wants. The government wants money flowing into supply, new supply really. So new builds keep the treatment. Whether new builds are good quality or not, that's a different story, but this is left out. Number 3, commercial properties and shares, completely carved out. None of this touches them. Then the other aspects of change is the capital gains tax, the 50% discount for individuals, trusts, and partnerships. They get replaced now with an indexation system plus a 30% minimum tax again from July 1st, 2027. Very complicated system, to be honest. People don't like it. It will be very hard to calculate, but look, it is what it is. Live with it. Life is hard. And there is a nuance here people keep getting wrong, so listen up very carefully. It is not your whole asset that is grandfathered, really. It is the gain, whatever growth happened up to 30th of June 2027. From 1st of July 2027, you keep the old 50% discount on the old gains. Anything after this date follows the new rules, which is indexation. 2 slices of the same gain. Now, you have to be very careful that you need to value your property or your shares on the 30th of June, just to make sure that you have a clean cut between before and after the changes. So to put it all together, this is not abolition of property investing. It is narrowing down of one deduction on one type of property in one type of structure from a date almost a year from today. And also have a stack of carve-outs that can help you. That's it. Now, why I'm saying negative gearing was never the strategy. This is the part I really want to sit with. I want to spend most of the time on it because this is the whole episode really in one idea. Negative gearing is not a strategy. It never was. That's what I've been always telling my clients for the last 20 years. It's just what happens when an asset runs at a short-term loss and the tax system lets you offset it. It's a feature you might benefit from along the way. It's not a reason to buy something. A bad asset is still a bad asset, even if you get a tax deduction on it. Now, think about this from scratch. Why do you actually buy an investment property? One reason, because it's a quality asset. You believe it will grow and produce income for you for whatever goal you have. Over a long-term time, if it stacks up on those terms, then any tax efficiency that comes with it is a nice bonus, cherry on top, just a tailwind, nothing more, nothing less. Now, if the tax treatment changes, the asset still doing its job, creating income, growing in value, and creating your wealth. But the flip side, if the only way an investment made sense for you was negative gearing, if the numbers only worked because the tax office was subsidizing you on a loss-making asset, then it was never a good investment. It was a tax product, really, wherein a property cost you. And I'm pretty sure that's not what you're after. Now, removing the deduction didn't break it. It just revealed it. So the question isn't, is the tax perk still there? The real question for you is, would I want to own this asset for the next 10 years, even if there was no tax perk at all? If your answer is yes, then congratulations, the budget barely touched you. If your answer is no, the budget just did you a favor. Now, why are we buying property? Why property is a good asset to buy? We need to look at what are the forces driving the property. And this is my next focus on today's episode. The forces that actually moves property is basically nobody's talking about, right? And everyone is panicking without looking at the real data. The force that actually moves property prices over a decade, and it's not a tax deduction, it is supply. One word that will determine the property market in Australia. Australia is not building enough homes, and the reasons are structural. We all know it. They are not going away next year or in 5 years, and I don't think even in 10 years. Construction costs have jumped by 40% or more since 2020. There is a genuine shortage of skilled tradies. The land that can actually be developed for new homes is choked by zoning and planning rules that are slow, and some people call it stupid. And demand just keeps arriving. Migration is still running in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mom and dad are still the favorite bank for young people who wants to buy property, and they want to buy a property. A lot of my clients are helping their children to climb the property ladder early through the planning that we do. So those guys are the future purchasers of property, and most probably they want to live in vibrant communities or close to their parents, which is again not new properties. The numbers are very clear for us. The national housing target is on track to be missed by hundreds of thousands of homes. And that is not what I'm saying, it is what the data is saying. Rental vacancy is sitting near 1%. 1%. Again, some forecasters think the shortfall keeps widening for years, not months. Now, I want you to hold those two things side by side. On one side, a structural multi-year gap between how many homes exist and how many people need them. On the other, a deduction tweak with a 2027 start date and a fistful of exemptions. They're not the same size, I know. They're not even close. Treating the tax changes as a dominant force is like obsessing over the cabin temperature while you're ignoring the altitude. Now, let's talk about the part I find most telling of all of today's episode. Even Treasury, the people who designed these changes, are not forecasting a property crash. I read the budget papers word by word. I spent 3 days on it, my team and I. In the budget papers, if you read it, they say house prices will grow around 2% less over the next 2 years than they otherwise would have against a long run average of about 6% a year since the year 2000. What this is really telling us is all these measures that have been advertised and marketed about the budget that they will help first home buyers will curb the price growth from 6% to 4% over the next 2 years. That's it. That's what the government is trying to achieve. Okay? So they reckon a buyer would save around $19,000 when these changes take place, which we're not sure will take place in the first place. We don't understand what the model is, where the model is coming from. We don't understand how they calculated their numbers, but let's take it this way, right? Now, that's the whole projected effect. That is a couple of years of slightly lower growth and then back to the trend. That's not a cliff, really. That's a speed bump for the properties in Australia. Let me, in this part, just do a small arithmetic. I'll do it out loud for you. And I want to be really clear about what this is and what it is not. This is not a prediction. Nobody can predict a property price, and assumptions are not guarantees. I'm just taking government's own numbers at face value and just calculating them for you. That's it. If a property valued at $700,000 grew at around 4% for 2 years, and then long run 6% for the other 8 years, this means after 10 years, this property would be more than $1.2 million. Again, their assumptions, not my forecast. The point is simply this. The government's own figures describe a speed bump, not a collapse. A lot of the people screaming crash, 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 they haven't actually read the modeling. They're reacting to it. That's always the answer I'm hearing. When a client say, I think the property is going to slow down. I think the property is going to crash. And I then ask, okay, why are you saying that? I just feel it. That's what everyone is saying. That's on the news. Okay. What does that mean? We need to look at the numbers. You have to have resources, scientific resources to support your opinion. Okay, that's the most important part when you're making a decision. Now, let me keep myself honest here because this genuinely cuts both ways. The Reserve Bank has been raising rates this year. This tightens how much people can borrow, and it's a real headwind as Treasury own data shows investment property returns have ranged all over the place. They don't have a specific number to talk about, from small losses to solid gains, depending really on the asset and the decade that you're looking at. There are always markets within markets, and that's very important. Property is not some guaranteed escalator also. It never has been. It is just part of the toolbox. You should have your toolbox for building wealth. But notice that actually, what is that telling you? If your returns vary that much based on which property you pick and how you hold it, then the assets you choose and the strategy around it matters far more than whatever tax settings happens to be attached to it, which is, again, the whole point. Structure and quality of assets and your goals. Why are you acquiring these assets? So the conversation no one is almost having, and that's very surprising for me, is one more piece, and this one almost nobody's talking about. Now, notice who these changes are written for. They're written for individuals, trusts, and partnerships. Superannuations, namely, sits under a completely separate tax framework. Again, this makes the superannuation even more competitive than before. I always said superannuation is the most tax effective environment for you to build wealth, no matter how smart or complex your plans are. Now, a self managed super fund faces no changes here at all when they buy property. Not its capital gains treatment, not the way a geared asset works inside the fund. If you already hold property in SMSF, this budget changed nothing about it. That's very important. Now, this is not a loophole to go chasing, and I'll be wary of anyone selling it as one. Super has its own strict rules, its own costs, its own contribution limits. It's not the right home for every asset or every person. So you need real guidance and clarity before you commit. But it makes a point most people never stop to consider: the structure. You hold an asset in can decide whether a rule changes even touches you or not. Two people can buy the exact same property in the exact same suburb, and they end up in a completely different position purely because how they held it. Now, that's the heart of the decision, not whether one deduction survived, and it's exactly the kind of thing that, phase two of my confident choice system talks about, which is getting your ownership structures right. That quietly compounds over 30 years. My confident choice system is an advice system built for tech professionals to help them identify tools and resources and a good kind of plan that has been working and succeeding for more than 400 tech professionals, helping them achieve their goals and taking them from a misaligned position into a position where they're achieving their goals in confidence. So let me bring that home for you. Should you invest in property? You must be asking. I can't answer that for you on a podcast, and I wouldn't try to be honest. But I can hand you the right questions to ask yourself. Don't ask whether the tax perk survived. Ask this: am I looking at a quality asset I'll be genuinely happy to own for the next decade? Both in the right structure as part of a plan that doesn't fall apart the moment one tax rule changes? These are the real questions. If yes, then a deduction shifting in 2027 is a footnote for you. If no, then no amount of negative gearing was ever going to save you. And that's really the difference between investing and tax product shopping. And honestly, the budget just made it a lot easier to tell them apart. So if you're weighing up a property decision right now, try this one test. Strip the tax treatment out of your spreadsheet completely. Does the asset still make sense? That would tell you more than any budget commentary will. And if you want a second set of eyes on it before you commit real money, that's exactly what a financial clarity call is designed for. 20 minutes for you to spend talking to me about what's important to you, and you will walk away with a clear read on where you stand and whether or not we can ever work together. That's it for today's episode of Wealth Bites. If it helped, send it to someone who's panicking about the budget right now, and I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. I'll speak with you soon.